Okay, so welcome to my audience. Welcome to Vantage Point Conversations. Today, my guest, I'm going to say it's Randy McNeely. And I know because I looked on your profile, it's Randall, but do people affectionately call you Randy? Is that the
Yeah,
best way
that's
to?
that's 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 what I'm called. The only time I ever heard Randall when I was growing up, I heard my full name. If I heard Randall Dennis McNeely, I knew I was in trouble. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
Uh,
go by Randy.
Nice. We'll stick with Randy then. Fantastic. So my opening monologue always stays the same. So I do not introduce my guest because I feel that I would do a very bad job. I think you understand yourself much better than I would. I could obviously read your bio, etc. But would you mind just taking however long you want just to introduce yourself, who you are, anything you want to share, highlights, lowlights, anything you want in terms of context or you would like people to know about you, and then we just jump into our conversation from there.
I have to make one qualifier on the name Randy. I mean, I lived in England for 3.5 years, and I went by Randall while I was there because my name Randy has different connotations there, and we
It
won't
does.
need to go into those details. But it's the
Yeah.
only time that I've ever gone by Randall because due to other things.
Yeah.
That having said, I'm Randy McNeely. I am affectionately known as Captain Kindman. I love people, and I live for helping people to grow love in their lives through kindness. And because kindness is love in action, kindness is the mechanism for delivering love. And so I'm a big kindness advocate. Because if there's anything that at all that our world needs more than anything else right now, it's love. And so I am a survivor of multiple forms of childhood abuse. And what saved me? Love. People extended their arms and their hands and put them around me and put them around my family and helped me through a very dark time. And my family was going through some real challenges. My father made serious mistakes and was being prosecuted. And time in my life when things were really dark. And I knew that God was there. I'm a Christian. I knew that God was there. And I knew that I firmly believed and I knew that Jesus Christ was there. And yet I still had a lot of dark thoughts going through my head and wanted everything to end. I wanted the pain to stop. And I can tell you or anybody else the reason I am here today is because love saved my life. Kindness, reaching out, people extending kindness to me, extending love to me through kindness saved my life and changed everything. You know, there's I can look back on multitude of experiences, and the things that stand out is the people who took the time, especially in those challenging times, to reach out and love and to let me know that they were there and they were there for my family and that they cared. And so I'm on a mission now, particularly this year. I've started, since the beginning of the year, I'm on a mission to grow love through kindness. And every day I post on social media, I go out and intentionally look for opportunities to be kind. And I also create opportunities to give kindness away. I've gone out to give what I call kindness hero thank you cards away. I go to Walmart, it was a local store here, and walk in and just start talking to people and ask them, what's amazing about you? And I'm stealing that from my friend Michael Ray because he does such a great job at it. And that's a great question. What's amazing about you? And then what's amazing about someone else? Someone else who's kind here. And then I recognize them with the kindness hero thank you cards. And again, I don't share any of this to be self-aggrandizing because I'm an ordinary man just like anybody else. But because of the experiences I've had with love, I do what I do, and I'm the founder or co-founder of a wonderful organization called the Kindness Factory International, and our whole purpose is to be a voice for kindness in entertainment, and we go out and we seek for opportunities to film and create films that share and inspire kindness. We just got done completed full feature documentary with our wonderful friends at Kindness Worldwide called For Such a Time as This. It's a fantastic story of my wonderful friend and partner, Kevin Smith, and how one small act of kindness, someone returning his wallet totally turned his world upside down and changed him, transformed him. And it's got, not only does it share Kevin's story, but it's got a bunch of other transformative stories showing the powerful way that kindness can impact lives, touch hearts, save lives. My story's in there. Another wonderful lady named Tracy Ann Palmer's story is in there. And her story just, I mean, it gets you right in the heart. You can't watch the film and listen to what she shares without having tears come to your eyes. It's just, and the point is not to make people cry, but to illustrate, truly illustrate the transformative power that kindness has, and hopefully inspire people to go out and give some kindness away and find out for themselves how much love can impact not only their lives, but the lives of people around them. That
Wow. That covers a lot. You've made my job a bit harder because I've got so many threads to pull on there. But
actually, I should have made it easier, because now you've got a lot of threads to choose from.
yeah. So I'd just like to explore for a second the connection between love and kindness. Are these one and the same things, or are these an extension in your mind, how you see those things?
Kindness is the action, love is the feeling.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
when I extend kindness towards somebody and they receive it, they feel love is the feeling that comes. And we all need to feel loved. Everyone needs to give love away, so to help other people feel it, and also to feel it ourselves. We need to feel, in other way of saying it, we're feeling valued and appreciated, cared for, seen, important, heard, understood. Those are all feelings. I recognize them as all feelings and appendages of love.
Yeah.
We all need to have those. And those are the feelings that we want to, when we feel that warmth inside, when we feel recognized, when we feel understood. Kindness is the action. Love is the feeling that comes from it, in my mind.
Yeah. And so it's very interesting. I'm trying to model how I want to say this, but I've been having conversations. So a lot of my conversations are people like coaches, people that help other people. One of my conversations yesterday was about well-being,
Mm-hmm.
and people might just sort of dismiss the kindness. It's just that's just not nothing, but it's just okay, it's too simple or something like that. But that, as you just described that to me, that really translated because the conversation I had yesterday with a guy called Ryan Harland, he was talking about well-being, and he suffers from something called borderline personality disorder, and he explained that he just wanted to be. What helped him is being seen and being heard, and I think as you described all of those things, they are basic fundamentals that we all either want, we're either seeking, we're going out of our way to almost try and attract those things. And sometimes our actions are actually pushing that away because what we're seeking is actually deflecting deflecting that. But I think about how many people in companies go to work and just go there and just don't feel appreciated or unheard. And so, but that can extend inside work, outside work, absolutely everywhere, right? And as you explained, you went into Walmart, and you have no relationship with these people. It doesn't. You don't need to be in charge of people. You don't need to be leading people. You can just go and speak to someone, and that human element is something I'm very fascinated by because, again, I think we all want that. We all want to be seen. We all want to feel that we matter or that people can listen to us, and the downward impact of that is huge. And I
Oh
think a
yeah.
lot of uh, in so as I've got older, I realized that we try to come up with very, very complex ways about thinking things, strategies, etc. Yet most of the things that work are the simplest, but we overlook them, and I don't know why we overlook them. What's your experience in that?
Let me, before I jump into that, I want to throw out a definition. When I think of kindness, a friend of mine, we were talking at the beginning. Some people say kindness is just, oh, that's just fluff and it's weakness, and et cetera. It's soft. And a friend of mine kept telling me that, and it really bugged me. I was like, because I have to come up with a definition that helps to show, that really illustrates the fact that kindness is not weak and fluffy. It's actually a strength. It's a vital strength, and it's smart to adopt.
Mm.
And the definition I came up with is kindness is love in action, and it embraces every single behavior by which we show value and appreciation for ourselves first. We have to love ourselves and others. Every behavior. If we're showing value and appreciation, anything we do to show up for ourselves or for other people, that is kindness. And let's take the corollary of that. Can you think of any relationship, work, outside work, family, whatever, that can exist and thrive and grow if the two parties involved are not willing to show value and appreciation for each other?
No, because it's not actually a relationship. It's almost like a dictatorship,
It's,
like an imbalance or
it's
something.
transactional
Yeah.
as opposed to transformational.
Mm.
Relationships transform people. They transform friendship. They transform the way you interact with each other. And the only way, I defy anybody to give me an example of growing a powerful, trustworthy relationship without showing value and appreciation for each other. It's not possible. Therefore, without kindness, which is embraces every behavior by which we show value and appreciation to each other, without kindness, it is impossible to build trustworthy, powerful relationships, because people need to feel like they are seen and heard and valued. They need to feel loved.
Mm.
Everybody, it's a basic human need. You cannot get away from it. You cannot get away from the need to feel important, to feel valued, to feel seen, to feel loved and cared for. When you don't feel that, then you don't. It does not bring it. When you do feel that, let me back up. When you do feel that, it brings out the best in people. When people feel that way, they want to give their all. They want to give better. They want to collaborate better. They want to work better. All those different things that come with it. As opposed to when they don't feel that way, we see what's happening in the world. People disengage. We see the quiet quitting. We see all these different things that are going on. Now, having said all that, I totally lost my train of thought as to what the first question was that you asked me. But I wanted to clarify that because it'll lead into me answering your question.
Yeah, so I can't actually remember my question, so I was following your train of thought. But it's let me just bring in something else that I think is very important, because um, we need to be kind to ourselves almost first. And I think this
Yeah.
is something that I've struggled with for a long time. And someone pointed me to a book recently. It's called "Love Yourself Like Your Life Depended on It" by Kamal Ravikant. And
Wow. Sounds like a great
it,
book, one that I
it
need to read.
yeah, it's so I actually did the audio book because I'm a slow reader, and I wanted it to sink in, and I've listened to it about 3 times now. And I think for me, I think I was searching externally to validate the internal, and uh, I think we often do that in material things, houses, cars,
Yeah.
money, status, etc. And I used to be of the mindset of, okay, when I have this, then I will feel that. Like, so if I have
Exactly. When
this amount of
I've
money,
lost 75 pounds, in my case, when I've lost 75 pounds, then I'll love myself better.
yeah,
It'll be less of
and
me to love, but I'll love myself better.
yeah, and
Or
that, and I think the transformational part for me was you can give yourself now exactly what you're searching for. Now, and it seems weird, so there's a few exercises that you go through to do, and it can feel quite strange at first. And I think the dialogue in your head sort of says, "Oh no, this doesn't feel right, doesn't land." But through consistency, through repetition, these messages, it's basically, there's no secret in it. You can go and buy the book, but it's basically saying to yourself, "I love myself."
yeah,
And we very rarely hear that. Some cultures don't share that they love each other. That seems again like a weakness. We point out flaws in other people, etc., etc. And so we're not used to hearing that. And depending on, again, we can touch on this. We often think these things are a weakness or being soft, but ultimately, so um, you have to sort of, there's a few different exercises, but you have to keep doing it, because in my brain it's been wired for a long time that I didn't necessarily love myself in that way. And I realized that by doing that, by loving myself first, then what I portray externally is much healthier. I'm not trying to be kind to other people to validate myself. I'm already validating myself by myself. And then everything else feels very genuine, and things start to shift. There's synchronicities and stuff like that. And it's this very strange way of approaching things. And so the old expression, give to receive, that no longer is applicable, and it takes out that expectation that you're going to get something back. And I think sometimes with kindness, people do that. They give to receive. And I think if you're okay with yourself and you're kind to yourself, and I think most of the struggles around the world are not in our head. I know there are things going on in the world, etc., and things that aren't great, etc. But most of the struggles actually are in our head, with our own conscious, oh, we're not good enough, etc., etc. If we can start there, I think that changes our behavior externally, and that also has a massive impact on the people that you can reach, and the authenticity of what you're saying to other people.
Oh, it's interesting that you bring all this up, because being Captain Kindman, being the kindness advocate I am, I was just talking to a friend of mine just the other day, and I'm going to be totally transparent. I don't mind being vulnerable and opening myself up a little bit. I am great at being kind to other people and looking for and seeing the good things in other people. The person I struggle the most with to be kind to is myself, because I know all my foibles. I know all the mistakes I've made. I know the things that I struggle with, and I have struggled with, similarly to you, is thinking, okay, I'll love myself better when this. Well, what does that do for me today? What does that do for me today? A good friend of mine, Jairus Tucker. Jairus, I'm giving you a shout out. I'm going to have to make sure I let him know that I gave him a shout out here. We interviewed him for our podcast that we were doing, and he talked about how he looks in the mirror every day and tells himself at least 3 reasons why he loves himself. And I started doing that, and I find it's a tremendous practice, because I need to remind myself that I need to be loved today. I don't need to wait till tomorrow. I don't need to wait till next week. I'm working on losing weight. I've got quite a bit to lose, but I don't need to wait till I've lost it to say, Randy, I love you. You're a good man. You have great talents and abilities, and a good heart, etc. And some people might look at that and think, oh, okay, you're just tooting your own horn. No, it's not. And when you look in the mirror and you see yourself, you need to be able to see yourself. You talk about seeing others, and people want to be seen. Well, we want to be seen, and be able to look in the mirror and see yourself for the good person that you are, and see the talents and abilities and the things that you're doing and the progress that you're working to make and the difference you're trying to make. Like you, I know when I'm feeling good about me, when I have positive, confident feelings about me, it's so much easier for me to talk to other people and give love away. On the days when I'm not feeling good about me are the days I struggle the most to be kind and caring towards other people.
Yeah.
It's true. If I'm feeling cranky inside, feeling, angry or upset about something inside, sometimes it's really easy to let that cranky monster, as I call it to my kids, let the cranky monster out, and extend that crankiness to other people. And then what does that do? That sucks all the light out of the room.
Yeah. So it feels very much, how you start, not how you start your day necessarily, but how you view yourself in that moment. And I'm fascinated by people, because sometimes you can wake up with in a bad mood for no rational reason. You know, you've had a good night's sleep, you've eaten
Yeah.
well, there's been nothing. You can just wake up and your brain can be off. And and then you can carry on your day that way. But if you just take a moment, and I think we always think these things are really heavy to lift, these things to do, and especially I think in the beginning when you say you love yourself, it can feel very like, oh, like you kind of want to run away from it. That's how I felt
This is
about doing
weird.
it. Yeah, and it's just and
Stand here and tell myself I love myself.
yeah, and I think we also perceive it's, you know, like you say, tooting your own horn. You know, we almost think it's going to be the other way. Oh, I'm going to come off arrogant that I love myself and I'm a showman or whatever. A whole million things that you go, I'm going to avoid doing that because I think I'm going to be this weird version of myself. The reality is you're not, right? It's just slow increments of making yourself feel better about yourself and being okay with yourself. And so I think we often stop that. But that moment when you wake up in the morning and you know you're feeling a bit groggy or your head's a bit foggy for whatever reason, nothing. Sometimes you can put your finger on it if you've had too much alcohol or you've not had enough sleep or whatever. But we kind of just get on with our day and we don't really think about it. We're not very intentional. We just jump into something. You know, I've got two young kids. Yeah, got to give them breakfast, got to go to school, etc. And you can get a good way through your day without sort of realizing you're still carrying this fog and this sort of energy around with you. And I think if you can build a routine where you just wake up and go, yeah, I love myself, and just make that intentional. It doesn't need to take a long time. You just need to do it. And yes, it'll feel a bit weird or a bit icky in the beginning, but it just becomes habit. And after that, I know you're doing it for yourself, but actually you're probably doing it for other people. You know, how I think about if I'm feeling a bit bad about myself, how's that going to rub off on the kids? They're going to see me, they're probably going to mirror my behavior. I might even get a bit grumpy and say, look, we're getting a bit late for school, you know, come on, let's get going. But if I'm like, yeah, no, this is good, I love myself, then it changes my state and I go, oh yeah, look, let's get in the car, let's have fun, let's, you know, play the music loud or sing. And it's you can if you start that at the beginning of your day, you have so much more impact throughout the day. And I don't I don't do that to do like to see this impact around the world. But I realize if you can just do this little thing at the beginning of your day and be intentional about it, it can change how you see yourself. And then, like you say, it sort of spreads out, right?
Yeah. But you know, it's interesting you bring that up because being religious, I worked really hard to make it a habit, a daily habit of getting up. And I mean, I do every day. Every day I have my own, I say my prayers. I have my own, I study my scriptures. I study some inspiring talks. And so I have like a little morning devotional. But I've also incorporated that. The first thing I do, I get in and look in the mirror. I want to put kindness top of mind. Follow my own formula. I have that formula, the kindness giver's formula. The first thing it says to do, look in the mirror and say, I'm going to be a kindness giver today. Well, following my own formula, I'm going to be a kindness giver today, and I love me, and here's why I love me. And it's one thing to talk about the formula. It's another thing to be living it, and I'm striving to live that every day. And my experience is as I live that, as I do that every day, as I put that first thing top of mind, and then have my morning devotional and stuff like that, my day go a ton better. Maybe that's a slang word to use, but it'd go a lot better.
Yeah.
And I notice, and just like you do, we know when we haven't done that.
Yeah.
We know when we haven't done that, and we get thinking through that. Is like, oh crud, I didn't start my day off right. That's why today has been so not so great,
Yeah.
And so no, it does. The way you start your day, it's almost like, in the morning, each day in the summertime, we grow a garden, and we go out and we water the garden, usually at the beginning of the day or the end of the day, depending on how hot it is. But if you don't start out the day with some water, a little bit of water, it's easy to shrivel up and get dehydrated, especially when the heat comes. It's the same thing, doing that morning devotional for me is like getting my spiritual water, my mental, emotional water, and it
Mm.
and it and it, and it fills me up and carries me through the rest of the day. So that
Mm.
I can also, because my cup is filled, I can help fill somebody else's cup.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and I think that's the thing. It's a nice sort of visual description. When you're good about yourself, then that cup is now filling. You can share that, and I think the impact of doing that is so much more, and like, it comes from a genuine place, and I think that's I've had James Callock on here, and that's actually how we got
yeah.
connected, and
James is an
you know,
amazing guy. I love
he
James.
is, and this platform that he's built about kindness, and I
Yeah,
think one of the things I love about it, because I'm actually quite a visual person, we think a lot of things that we say to people, we don't actually see the outcome. So I think of it as this way. So let's say I'm driving my kids to school, and there's someone that wants to turn into the road. If I'm just solely focused on my goal, as in, okay, I've got to get the kids to school, or I could let that person out, and that person might go, oh, that person let me out, and then they might let someone out, as long as that doesn't, keep spiraling out of control and then it causes some weird traffic jam. But it might be that that person was in a bad mood and go, oh, no one's thinking about me, and I've just let someone go in front of me. And the challenge for most of that stuff, I think, is that we don't see the impact of what we're doing, and I think that's maybe why we don't do it as much, because it's an intangible thing. What I liked about James's platform is it's a way to kind of track that and visualize it, and this ripple effect that sort of talks about, that can have a massive impact around the world. You always think it's just the person in front of you, but it's not that. It's, this conversation today, it's going to, loads of different, parts of the planet, and that could feed someone's mind in terms of how they see themselves, and they go, okay, maybe I'm going to do that. That has a ripple effect. Often that goes unnoticed or uncaptured because we want very quick results. And I like James's way of doing that. And that, I think, if people actually realized what that is, or how our actions impact others, they would probably do more of it.
no, I think so. And that's why I love James' platform, because it's a way to track that kindness and to see what people are doing. What kind of activities they're doing, and look, if these people can do this kindness, maybe I can too.
Mm.
And it's a great way of visually showing, on the map. He's got the kindness map showing the places in the world where people are doing all kinds of kindness. And I was
Mm.
looking at his map yesterday. In my post for day 7 of the Growing Love Through Kindness campaign, I did a screenshot of his map after I went out and posted, put some of the things that I've been doing or other people have been doing on there. And, you can see all the different places where people have recorded kind actions. And I did a screenshot of that and put it in my last post. And I had the idea come, and I'm going to do this is, I'm looking over here, Europe's got a lot more kindness actions going on. Come on, America. We need to, so maybe create a friendly little bit of a competition. Not,
Competition. Yeah.
not want to be doing kindness just to say, well, we did more than they did, but
Yeah.
it's our world needs the kindness. Our country, especially right now, and not that we need it anywhere else more than anybody else does, but there's so many different things going on in this country right now that are polarizing people, that are dividing people. If there was ever a place and a time here that we need love, it's now. And
Mm.
so if I can inspire people to take on and grow and spread a little more kindness here, I feel like I can have an impact on our national conversation. And hopefully, people will take a look and take a step back, take a time to pause and think, despite these things that are going on, how I respond to them determines the impact. Excuse me. Goodness. There we
Bless you.
go. How I respond to them determines the impact that it has on me.
Yeah.
And it's going to directly affect, the impact that it has on me is going to affect the impact that I have on others, with my interactions with them. And so,
Yeah.
anything we can do to reduce the negative impact, because there's a lot of things going on that could easily negatively impact us if we allow it to,
Yeah.
that affect us mentally or emotionally if we allow it to. Depending on how we respond to what's happening, that's going to determine, how we show up in the world and the difference we can make.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you were saying that, I was thinking that act of how we see things, it creates this pause, and I think we have like default reactions to things. I'm thinking of things, we make decisions out of ego, or okay, you I win, you lose, that kind of mentality. But actually,
Yeah.
if you can create that pause and go, oh, well, is that actually what's going on? Could we do like a win-win? Decisions are much greater, but I think we react very quickly. But that that pause can have a massive effect. I'm thinking about people in companies, people, running the country, etc., and the decisions that they make, and just, it can have a massive impact. If we just take a manager in a company and they're in charge of 30 people, if they're, setting a policy for, how the staff are, whatever it is, and if their default is, oh no, everyone's trying to cheat the system or something like that, and that's how their default wiring is, and if they go, oh, and they just catch themselves, micro pause, and just go, oh no, 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 that's actually not what's going on. People just want to be seen and heard. Okay, how can I bring that into the decision? And it might be that the decision remains the same, but it might be, oh, there's an alternative way, or like a halfway, and that can affect those 30 people, and it's how they show up. And if I said this yesterday about the sort of well-being, we spend so much time in work, and we spend a lot of time asleep if we can get to sleep. I know some people have insomnia and just our brain's always working, but we spend so much time at work, and this feels like an amazing opportunity to help people. And in companies, it seems that it's just about success, profit, money, etc.
Yeah.
There's almost a responsibility, I feel, in a company to say, okay, these are all people, and it's not just, they're not just soldiers that just can, you can just replace them. They're human beings, and they show up, they want to work, they want to give their best. I know some people don't, but maybe they're in the wrong job. There's a whole host of things in there. But we spend such a big amount of our time, and I've often felt that having a great manager or a leader in that company can really impact. You have influence over those people, whether you want it or not, and that is a responsibility that actually, you know, you should take quite seriously, because you can impact how that person shows up for work, how they go home and interact with their family. And I guess that ties into this point of kindness being a weakness. And you know, people sort of go, "I'm a manager, so I've got to be hard and firm with my staff." And I've never seen it that way. How do you perceive all that? And when people sort of criticize and say it's a weakness, how do you sort of challenge that?
Well, again, it comes back to what we talked about earlier. A couple things. Well, first of all, I don't know. We all have basic human needs: to be seen, to be cared for, to feel valued, to feel appreciated and important. And I don't know of anybody who shows up to work, crosses that thresholds, and those needs disappear. You don't cross the work threshold and all of a sudden you're an automaton and you don't have those needs anymore. And so when leaders take the time to stop and think, we all have these basic human needs. We all need to feel heard and seen and understood. That makes a big difference, because it helps them to recognize I need to behave in certain ways and interact with people in certain ways if I want to build a rapport and build a relationship that's going to inspire and bring out the best in the people that I work with. If they're not willing to stop and take that pause and think and recognize the fact that they themselves have those same needs and are human beings and have the need to build relationships, they're going to have a tough time building relationships with anybody else. And if anybody, anybody at work, I can challenge you. So if, again, coming back to, is it possible to build relationships within a work situation without showing value and appreciation for people? And they're going to say, no, it's impossible. Therefore, help me understand how building relationships is a weakness.
Mm.
And they can't. Building relationships is a strength. Well, okay, then what do you need to do to be able to build relationships? You need to embrace those behaviors by which you show value and appreciation for people. And that is embracing kindness, which is the strongest and the only way I know for building positive, powerful, trustworthy relationships. And so, yeah, and the fact is, people in business don't like talking about it in this way. The fact is, though, that everybody there needs to feel loved and cared
Yes.
about. And if they don't feel that, if they don't feel valued and appreciated, then there's going to be problems. You'll never bring out the best. You'll never see their best work efforts. We all know, we've been in situations, I've been in situations where I knew I was, and I felt and wasn't showing value and appreciation. I felt unappreciated and felt unvalued. And did I give my best in those situations? No.
Yeah.
Should I, being the person that I know I need to be, should I have tried to do hard to do better? Probably, but it's really hard when you're not feeling, when you don't say, they're going to treat me like garbage. Then why am I going to work hard? I'm here. I do my job, such as it is, and I leave, and I can't wait to get out of the building.
Yeah.
And that's human nature.
Yeah. And I think a lot of businesses, they see it as a cost. And it was the same thing as well-being, but well-being is about kindness and seeing people and understanding them as humans and individuals. And I think that's very important. And the conversation I had yesterday was.
Can I stop you with that for just a sec?
Sure.
You said a key word. They see it as a cost.
Yeah.
What does it cost in terms of turnover and disengagement and lack of loyalty if relationships that are strong and trustworthy are not there?
Yeah.
You see it all the time. Businesses have constant turnover when they have a cruddy culture. When they have a lousy culture, they suffer from constant turnover. They also suffer from loss of business. People want to work with people that they know, like, and trust. Is a word that phrase gets bandied about all the time in the corporate world, but the fact is that it's true. It's not just a nice thing to say. People want to work with people that they know, like, and trust. And if they know you and they don't like you and they don't trust you, they're not going to want to work with you.
Yeah.
And that's reality. And in our lives, if we're not trying to treat people better and treat people kinder, it's going to be really hard to have people want to be around us. If we walk around with almost like we've been sucking on a sour pickle all day, it's going to be really hard for anybody to, oh, here's the pickle sucker. They're going to turn and go the other direction, because nobody likes to be around people who come in and with their negative attitudes suck the light out of the room.
Yeah. And so I actually see it as an investment. It
is.
Again, we look at metrics and we measure things, how much revenue has a company made, et cetera, et cetera. But I know you can quantify some of those things in terms of, okay, how many sick days are people taking, etc. But I don't think that tells the full picture. And you can't quantify all the time things like kindness, sort of, giving back and, seeing and feeling heard. Because, if, again, in an example, when I felt seen and heard and trusted, I give so much more of myself. I become creative. I bring the best version of myself. And again, those things, and they don't exist on the spreadsheet somewhere. You can't quantify it. And if I didn't feel that, my loyalty would say, yes, I'm going to show up, but I'm just going to do the bare minimum. And so the delta between those we never really capture, but it does exist. And I think the people that understand that realize that it's an investment in their people. And we kind of go, oh, it's a cost, why would I connect with my people, why would I be kind, etc. But if people reframed it, they would realize the value in that. And like you talked, there's staff turnover, and I know you can quantify that, etc. But people, it's really strange where you often see companies going through a lot of people. You go, oh, people only sort of staying for like 3 months, a year, or something like that. What's going on with them? It's not about them. It's about something greater. Maybe then you need to fix something a bit further up, and maybe it's the management or how people are being perceived or treated within that company, not just by a single manager, but in general by other people, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. When as you're sitting there talking, I'm thinking of a book by a guy named Clint Pulver called "I Love It Here," and he did a whole. Have you ever heard of that book before?
No,
It's a
no.
fantastic book, and what he did, young guy, he's an amazing speaker, amazing drummer, and stuff like that. But he's also the author of this amazing book. He did undercover interviews in hundreds of companies across the United States, asking employees what they liked or didn't like about their job. And he found that in those companies where people said, "I love it here," and they were able to name off all the things that they loved about it, that all the companies that were where people said, "I love it here," they had the same things in common. They treated their people right. They built a culture of caring and kindness. They built a culture where people felt seen, valued, and heard, and it impacted their bottom line. And those companies are thriving because they have people who are continually returning as customers because of the way they're treated, because their employees treat everybody that they work with the same way that they're treated inside the organization. And that creates collaboration in the organization. They have better teamwork. They have better productivity. They have higher innovation. All those things have a direct impact on the ultimate bottom line. And they don't need to do near as much marketing. Why? Because they get a ton of word of mouth referrals. And all their employees are their biggest fans. They're happy to go out and say, "Hey, I work for company X. We do this, this, and this. And it's a great place to work, and it's a great place to do work with, to deal with, great people to deal with." And the upside is like this. It's like this. It's like I can't remember if it's Hilton or Ritz-Carlton, one of the hotel chains. Another friend of mine, David Friedman, wrote a great book called Culture by Design. And he shares the story in there about, God, I wish I could remember the name of the hotel. I can't remember right now, but their whole philosophy is that they are constantly looking for ways to help people feel valued and appreciated. And their employees are constantly, they're constantly reminded, we value you and appreciate you, and here's what we expect. And they set clear expectations, and here's how we treat our customers, and our customers come back to us on a regular basis and tell people about us on a regular basis because of how we treat them. And they're a huge success in the hospitality industry, simply because they built a culture around, we show value and appreciation for ourselves inside the organization, and then we look outward and we do the same thing for the people we serve.
Yeah.
Okay. So any organization that will adopt that will, they can look for what they call kindness performance indicators. You hear about KPIs all the time. I can't even remember what the K stands for in KPIs.
Yeah.
I think in terms of kindness all the time, but kindness performance indicators. How am I treating my colleagues? How do they feel? How do they feel inside there? You can create surveys or create questionnaires, but do it in a way that allows people to speak freely and transparently and authentically. And you can find a lot of information. the more important way, the easier way to do that is just talk to people directly. How do you feel? And have the courage to, this is where I'm going to talk about courageous kindness really quickly. Courageous kindness is a little bit more than just embracing every behavior. It also means extending love toward everyone, regardless of the situation. And that is not easy. That's why it's called courageous kindness. In these interviews, have the courage to accept feedback that you may not want to hear, because none of us are perfect. Some of my best managers were managers that were totally open to hearing feedback, and even feedback that they didn't necessarily want to hear, but that they needed to hear. And they changed and got better and improved because of it.
Yeah.
And that, and having a willingness, having the courage to accept feedback in those situations. That's how they, a lot of these companies where, I love it here. It's the same thing. They have honest communication, honest feedback, and they seek to improve. They try to remove ego, or they work hard to remove ego from the process. All heart, no ego. That's how, my co-founders of the Kindness Factory International, as well as, the founders of Kindness Worldwide, that's how we've been able to build a great partnership, because we're all heart, no ego. We all are in the same heart space, trying to make the world a better place, inspire kindness, give love away, grow love everywhere we go. And that works the same way inside a business. It works the same way inside a family. It works in the same way in person to person, individual relationships. If we're looking for ways to grow love, if we're looking for ways to build people up, make people better, do better things, we're going to create processes that promote that. We're going to create habits and actions and things that promote that inside our business, inside our lives. And when we do that, we will find that the relationships we're able to build are strong and powerful. And the impact that they have is to bring out the best in people. And when we bring out the best, like I've already said, and we've talked about, when we bring out the best in people, magic happens. That's when things really start to rock and roll and go forward, and organizations start to knock it out of the park because of the way people feel. Again, coming back to the feelings we talked about earlier, kindness breeds feelings of love, appreciation, value. That's what those things are. When people feel that way, man, they want to just keep coming back for more. I mean, it's almost like going to a buffet with your favorite food. You want to go back because it tastes so good. When people feel love, you don't have the turnover rates. You don't have the disengagement. You don't have, there's not a company on the planet that doesn't have some turnover. But if we were able to go through and do a study of those companies that have the highest turnover, I can guarantee you, as sure as I'm saying this right now, that if you looked inside that company, the reason they have the high turnover is because they do not have strong relationships.
Yes.
They don't have strong relationships.
Yeah. And I just wanted to talk about the kindness, giving feedback with kindness. And I think that's such an important thing, because I think when you know that you're getting feedback and it comes from a kindness place, that is so different than it kind of brings you your acceptance of that feedback.
Yeah.
So rather than be guarded, you go, okay, whoever is in front of me, they've taken the.
You don't get this look on your face like.
And it's just, and you go, oh, okay, and that again, that maybe creates that pause from, sort of. I know when someone's sort of given me some feedback and it's touched a nerve, I almost automatically give her like a response, like not angry, but maybe angry. And you go, but actually, when I know the person in front of me is being kind, and to give feedback is sometimes quite difficult. But if you know that person is kind and they've taken the courage to actually give you feedback because they want the best for you, then that allows that in. And I think it does something with the ego. I don't know if it takes it away or just lets it sort of sink down for a bit. But that ability to do that. And whenever anyone I know that struggle to give me a hard message, and they are good and they're doing it in a kind way, I go, yeah, okay, like, yes, it might sting a little bit, but that's something else going on. That's not about that person, and I shouldn't punish that person, by being angry back to them, because that's taken them courage. And I think that makes a big difference. And if you know it comes from a genuine, kind place, and someone's looking out for you in the kindest way, then okay, you can do something about it rather than react and that person go away and say, I'm never going to give feedback again. So again, you almost have two routes. You can go the negative way or you can go the positive way. And the negative can feel like it's painful sometimes, and it can be difficult to be kind sometimes. Give constructive feedback, or if you're a bit shy or don't like to speak out, and you're speaking to a manager or someone like that, it does take courage to sort of speak up and find your voice sometimes. But if you do it from a place of kindness and say, I'm doing this to help this person, and they receive that, what a great support system, right?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to bring that up, because it made me immediately think of an experience I had with the lady that I was working with, that she had the reputation, and nobody liked to work with her. Everybody thought she was cranky. She was a supervisor too. I mean, and everybody thought she was cranky, and she could be abrasive and stuff like that. But I one day, and this took a lot of guts. I mean, I had to work myself up to do this for days. But I finally, because I could see the good in her. I could see, that she cared, and I started building up a little bit of a friendship with her, because she loved to raise this certain kind of dog and stuff like that. And I talked to her about that, and just was friendly with her and built up a little bit of rapport with her that way. And because we had got to a point where we had a friendly interaction, and she was open to it, when we were in a situation where I said, okay, this is not easy for me to say, but first of all, I want you to know that I appreciate the opportunity to work with you, and I think you're a good person. I know you have a good heart, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that you want to do a good job, and to be a good manager for the people that a good supervisor for the people that you work with. And she said, oh yeah, I do. Okay, let's say so. I need to would you be open to some feedback, and a couple of suggestions that I think can help you in improving your relationships with the people in our group, and to be a better manager. And I realize you manage me, and I'm not at the management level, and I'm not your boss and stuff, but I'm coming from a perspective of a friend and someone who cares about your success. Now, did I say it all exactly perfectly like that? I don't remember, but that was the intent, and that's the way I tried to come across. And because I came across that way, and because I had already formed some rapport with her, she was open to listening. And as a result of that, she took what I said to her, and she said, "Wow, that's not." I mean, I remember her to this day. I remember the look on her face is, "Wow. No, that's not easy to hear." Mm-hmm. I said, I know it's not. It probably stings. Or I didn't use that word. Probably hurts. But I don't tell you this with the intent to hurt you. I'm just telling you what's going on, so that you can stop and think about it, and think about how you might approach things a little bit differently. And if you're open to it, I have some suggestions this way. And and that was a conversation. But if I had not built up, I mean, if I had gone up, everybody told me, oh, she's cranky, you don't want to do blah, 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 blah. If I had accepted that and not tried to build up a relationship with her, a rapport with her, nothing would have changed. And I never would have been able to have that conversation with her.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Another, we've got 5 minutes. I'm going to tell a really quick story. We had when we've lived in several different neighborhoods. We've moved a few times. for various reasons, for work, for other stuff like that. But we moved into a new neighborhood, and I often have created the habit of going around. Just I start when I move into a neighborhood, I start going out when it's winter time, because unfortunately I've lived in a lot of places where it snows a lot. I go out and shovel the snow for neighbors. I do our own sidewalk, and then I'll find a neighbor or two to shovel their sidewalks or their driveway or something like that. Well, and I also go around beforehand. I go around to the neighborhood introducing myself to the neighbors. I just, hey, I'm new in the area. My name's Randy McNeely, and I'm just out on a walk casually, knocking on the door. I want to get to know my neighbors. Some people would say that's nuts, but fortunately I've been able to live in neighborhoods where I felt comfortable doing that. But this new neighborhood I moved in, and a guy who I'll call John lived in this house. And everybody on the block warned me, don't go to John's house because he's just cranky. He'll swear at you and he'll tell you to get the, out of his yard and all that, blah, 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 blah. Well, I took that as a personal challenge. I said, well, I mean, that first thing to tell not to do is to tell me not to go visit this guy. So I took that as a personal challenge. I want to get to know John, and I want to, I'm going to find a way to befriend him. So of course I go over and I knock on the door, and I could tell within the first 30 seconds why everybody had felt like, don't go visit John because he's cranky and he'll get mad. And he did. He must have used 10 explicatives in the first, 3 sentences that he said. But I still said, I'm who I am, and it's I'm your new neighbor, and over here. And okay, great. And then he basically slammed the door in my face. And long story short, it snowed the next day, and it dumped like 8 inches of snow. And early in the morning, 5 o'clock, I got up and I went over, and I shoveled our sidewalk and part of our driveway with my family. But then I went over and I started shoveling Mark's driveway. And all of a sudden I hear this slam, and then boom, 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 the steps coming down the sidewalk. What the are you doing out here? Blah, 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 blah. I said, hey, I'm just helping out by shoveling the driveway. He's like, I don't need your effing help. I said, okay, I get it, but I wonder if you could help me. And that totally caught him off guard. And he's like, I wonder if you could help me. What do you mean? Well, I'm kind of fat and overweight, and I need extra exercise. I'm wondering if you'd let me get some exercise shoveling your driveway. He's like, oh, okay. Let me walk back in the house. Same day, it snowed again. Went back the next day, started shoveling his driveway. Same experience. Comes out. What the? It says, you told me I could get my exercise. The fat guy's out here getting his exercise. I'm doing that. And he's like, oh, okay. And then I hear him, go out and slam the door. But then 5 minutes later, he came out, grabbed a shovel, and started shoveling with me.
Wow.
Started talking. Got to know him a little bit, ask him about his family and tell him about my family. And then we shoveled his driveway together, and wonder of wonders, we went and shoveled the neighbors, and he came with me. And then, little by little over time, we started shoveling driveways together, making it a morning, when the snow came, we were out shoveling together. And the next year, then it went, then we go out on the street. When I was walking by, I'd hear the door open. Hey, Randy, how's it going? He never did that. Everybody in the neighborhood was shocked. They're all shocked. And the next year, when it started snowing again, I'm getting ready to go out, and I hear this snowblower going in my driveway and on my yard, and Mark, or John, I should say, I just gave his name away. John was out there doing snow blowing my sidewalk. And I said, John, what are you doing? He said, hey, I've had this thing sitting in my garage for like 15 years. I decided to fix it so I could, use it to help people.
Wow.
That's the transformation that can come
Yeah.
when you build up a little bit of a relationship.
Yeah.
That was courageous kindness.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because it took courage to go over and talk to this guy that was known as the neighborhood crank.
Yeah. But that's the thing. It's easy to write people off and think a certain way, or take assumptions from other people about other people. And like you say, it took courage to go and speak to this guy. And I know you saw it as a personal challenge, but you now have a relationship. The neighborhood's better. People see him differently. Like, again, you can't, and that doesn't happen immediately. That's happened over a series of days and then over a year or so. But what a great transformation, right? That's
Yeah,
you, you,
yeah.
you've gone into something very visceral in his heart or whatever, and he sees that thing, and he kind of wants to give back. So you've taken someone that could be cranky and sort of the whole neighborhood's written off, who's now shoveling your snow. What an amazing thing! What an amazing gift!
Well, and then the thing is that they know that the neighborhood started noticing too that John didn't come out and start swearing at people who were walking by his yard anymore. He stopped doing that. He used to come out every time, he'd come out in the summer and see people, if they were walking their dog by there, don't let your dog go in the bathroom. He'd come out and start swearing. He didn't do that anymore.
Wow.
And when we had a neighborhood party, he came with it and brought his brother, and it made a difference. It made a difference. That's the power of love. That's the power of courageous kindness, extending love, even when it's hard.
Yeah.
And our world, I think, is our time about up?
No, we can keep on going. I normally sort of say an hour 10 is good. So, but I think I could talk to you all day long anyway, Randall.
I could too. Unfortunately, I've got some other things I've got
yeah, I appreciate that.
Run to. But Colin, here's what I think is amazing about you, is that you care about people, and you're having these great conversations, and you're sharing your thoughts, you're inviting other people to share their thoughts, and you're giving people an opportunity to just air out a few good things, and when you do these lives that are gonna that people can learn from, that they can take and use and glean some nuggets, and hopefully make this world a brighter, happier place. So I couldn't be more grateful for the opportunity I've had to be here with you today.
Oh, I really appreciate that. Thank you. I used to deflect compliments, but now I'm just letting them sink in, because I think that's actually a much more respectful way, and I think
and it's part of loving yourself, Colin.
100%. That was exactly what I was going to say. So when I started these lives, it was I didn't quite know what they were going to evolve into, and actually it's just about having conversations, because I get to meet so many interesting people with so many different perspectives. Some are similar to mine, some are quite different. I cover topics that I've never even thought about, and I love it. I absolutely love it. And it's not about giving advice, it's about sharing what's going on. And if people want to take those nuggets and apply them to their lives, and they can change something for themselves, I think that's fantastic. And I think why I'm interested in the whole kindness thing, and again, I've spoken to James, and I'm actually speaking to Kevin in a couple of weeks as well. But I think that kindness, and we talked about it in the sort of middle of this conversation, that kindness, we think about other people, but I truly believe things will be so much better if we were kinder to ourselves, and if we can start there and then go outwards. But if it takes doing it externally to find it internally, whatever way, but we also need to feel that for ourselves. And I would love people, because I feel that they're struggling for things to happen to make themselves feel a certain way. And I say that probably projecting my own insecurities and everything that I've sort of gone through and trying to work through. And I believe if you can start with yourself, we can make everything a lot better. We're more open and more receptive to other ways of doing things. And I think that has a massive impact.
It does. It absolutely does. Just one little ending note. When I was a kid, I learned a song, I want to be kind to everyone, for that is right, you see. So I say to myself, remember this, kindness begins with me. And we have to remember that if we are kind to ourselves, it's a lot easier to be kinder to other people. And it makes a difference. And I'm having to let one of the things I struggle with is my weight, and with other health challenges, but it's because I haven't been as kind to myself as I need to be. And I'm really working hard to be kinder to myself so that I can have better health, because I need to be around for a while. The world needs the talents, the abilities, the things that I bring, the message I have to share. And so, and my family needs me. I need to be there for my family and for people like yourself and for other people, so that, if anything I say or do, to inspire love or kindness makes a difference in somebody's life, then I'll be succeeding. So
Yeah.
I appreciate your focus on that, because it reminds me the person I need to work on the most to be kindest to is me.
Yeah, but thank you for sharing those things, and I think, I think it's a good thing to actually highlight, because going into this conversation, we can think this conversation was just about kindness to other people, but also we also have our own insecurities, or we overlook ourselves, and I think if we can start there as well, that's going to have much more impact. It's going to sort of
Yep.
filter out a lot more. So thank you for that. 100%. You need to stick around. You need to look after yourself, and
I appreciate
because
that. I want to be around. So
yeah, but there is something very genuine about you in all the conversations. So we had this chat before we do this live. You you bring a lot of joy to my life, and I've walked away going, yeah, he's a great guy, and
well,
that
I
is
appreciate that.
very
Thank you.
inspirational. So thank you.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate that. That's very kind, and vice versa. The same thing. It's been a joy to get to know you, and shout out again to James Kellogg for introducing us.
Yeah. Thank you, James. Fantastic. Well, for today, fantastic. So people will probably want to know more about you. I know you've got a very good network of people around you. But if people want to find you, I found you through James, but on LinkedIn. Is that the best place for people, or website? Where should people find you?
They can go to LinkedIn. They can go to CaptainKindman.com. They can go to Facebook, or to mostly Facebook and LinkedIn is where I'm focusing right now. So, and go to my website.
Nice. I'll put the links on the repost of this. But for today, it was a true pleasure. Amazing. You've given me a lot to think about. I'm just going to go and tell myself I love myself in the mirror a couple of times, and yeah,
Go do it.
Day. Yeah, exactly. So, but thank you very much for your time. I really do appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Colin. I appreciate you.
Okay. Take care, Andy.
Bye-bye.